ready, though. I think we are. I think the AfterBuzz has begun. There we go. And look who's here! Buzzley Adams, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so, dude, kind of like, sorry. This is not your couch at home, man. So Buzz is here today because we're going to talk about a couple of different things, one of which was me getting fired at my internship. And then the other thing was also we kind of talked today about what's grosser than gross, which Buzz kind of, took to dead baby jokes. Which is kind of what's grosser than gross really became.
There was a fad of telling dead baby jokes.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling maybe it's one of those that comes in and out, like...
So let's revive it. Me and you. Sure. Right now, dead baby jokes.
Wait, revival. Dead baby jokes are grosser than gross?
Grosser than gross. We could do that if you like. And what's odd is that we did this stuff, I mean, when 10th grade, not 10th grade, when I was like 10 years old. Grade. But like 10 or 11, I remember elementary school, 4th, 5th, 6th, and then into middle school. And it was one of those things that really kind of got going on. So do you want to start with, we'll start with what's grosser than gross, and then I'll get to the firing story later. So what's one you got?
All right, what's grosser than gross?
What?
Siamese twins conjoined at the tongue.
Okay.
What's grosser than that?
What? One
of them throws up.
Ew.
What's grosser than that?
What?
That makes the other one throw up.
Oh, God. See, I actually remember some of these. I'm on a website here.
Oh, are you looking them up?
Yeah, and I remember some of these. It's all flooding back now. I do remember. One of the big ones was always, and we said this one on the air earlier today, what's grosser than gross?
Pile of dead babies?
A pile of dead babies. What's grosser than that? Being in the middle of, a pile of dead babies with a live one inside. What's grosser than that? The live one having to eat its way out.
Okay.
It's like stuff like that. Let me see here. What's one
the
here?
Kind of thing that would appeal to a 12-year-old, right?
I don't know. Would this one appeal to a 12-year-old? What's grosser than gross?
What?
2 vampires fighting over a bloody tampon. What's grosser than that?
I don't know.
The tampon's still in. What? Why are you shaking your head like you didn't know that this was going to be disgusting? The name of the game is called What's Grosser Than Gross.
Like I think just that I vaguely remember having heard that, but when I was in 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you I was such a naive kid that in junior high, kids would tell dirty jokes, and I wouldn't get them, but
you would laugh,
right? Because I didn't want them to think I didn't get it. So there was one I can remember. Like if a hot girl walked by, my friend would say, "Ooh, she gives me a rise in my Levi's." And I thought in my mind that meant...
Somebody was like pulling up their pants?
No. Here's what I thought. Trying to figure out, well, what, a rise in your Levi's? What could that possibly mean? So here's what my 11-year-old, 12-year-old brain came up with. That girl is so attractive, she makes me crap my pants.
That's what you related that to?
Yeah, I guess.
Rise in your Levi's and crap.
Well, I'd crapped at that point. I don't know if I'd popped the
bone yet. Here's some other ones. I don't remember some of these from when I was a kid. The one that was always a kind of a staple of the game was what's grosser than gross?
What?
Sliding down a razor blade. What's grosser than that?
What?
Sliding down a razor blade into a tub of lemon juice.
That reminds me of an old Saturday Night Live bit. It was Billy Crystal and Christopher Guest. And they were these two guys. Do you remember? Hey, I took one of those ball peen hammers. Yeah, that's it.
It sounds familiar.
And I'd bang myself in the head. Yeah. Oh, that's got to hurt. Yeah, and then I I wonder if those characters came out of something. They sound similar, is what I'm saying.
Here's some things that people are putting in the YouTube chat in regards to what's grosser than gross. And this is just kind of, like walking in a cesspool barefoot. A lot of stuff attacking you on here, buddy. What's grosser than gross? Buzz's desk. What's grosser than gross? Buzz's mic screen.
Oh my God, did the listeners know what a mic screen is?
Oh, because we've talked about it.
I noticed it the other day. It is pretty. I don't know.
Let me see here. What was it? It was one I was just gonna read about a cheerleader. It was really weird. Okay, what's grosser than gross?
What?
When a cheerleader does the splits and sticks to the floor.
Yeah.
What's grosser than that?
I don't know.
When she gets up and there's 5 class rings on the floor. What's grosser than that?
What?
One of those rings is her brother's.
Okay.
What's grosser than gross?
Wow.
Piling dead babies onto a cart with a pitchfork.
Okay.
What's grosser than that?
Live babies?
Piling live babies onto a cart with the pitchfork. And then here's another one that was always good. What's grosser than gross? Finding a cockroach in your Big Mac.
Half a cockroach?
Yes. What's grosser than that? Finding half a cockroach in your Big Mac. What's grosser than that? Finishing your sandwich.
I think I knew that one as like a joke as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, what's worse than finding a worm in your apple?
Half a worm.
Half a worm.
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing with that one. So, but yeah, what's grosser than gross? If anybody wants to type anything in the chat with more what's grosser than gross stuff, by all means, have at it. Okay, so let me tell you about when I got fired here. Okay, so and this
Can I set up what we were talking about?
Yeah.
There was a study that said that 1 out of 8 millennials, and I think they were talking about people in their 20s or early 30s,
Mm-hmm.
1 out of 8 said they would prefer to be fired via text rather than face-to-face.
Which seems lazy, but
I gotta say, depending on the circumstances, I agree with the millennials. I can think of some circumstances where I would be like, well, thanks at least for sending me a text. I didn't have to go in, fight traffic, get fired, and then leave in humiliation as everybody watched me clean out my desk.
yeah. But see, for me, I want that closure. I want to look them in the eye. I want to shake their hand. Thank you for your time. I appreciate for giving me the job and the opportunity. Now we can both move on. At least that's what I did when I got let go in Florida. Like I preferred that.
Mm-hmm. Was that when you got let go via instant message?
No, that was in Portland. So I started in a broadcasting school in 2001.
It was an internship, so you weren't even. You got paid from something you weren't. You got fired from something you weren't.
Wasn't even getting paid. I kind of got paid in the perks, like.
Get to go to concerts.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is that this guy who was my boss, he had been in the same program like 5 or 6 years before. He was always really cool with a lot of kids in the program when it came to internships. And it was one of the cooler internships because you were working directly with the show. So occasionally you would be on the air.
What kind of station? What was
it? It was like an alternative rock station. And it was a station I listened to.
Okay.
And it was like it was really, really cool for me to get in with the station and be working for him. We did a thing.
KUFO?
No, that was the other station.
In Portland, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A buddy of mine actually interned over at KUFO. And so anyway, I got a lot of the perks. They put us on the air. We did a thing called Intern Tested, Intern Approved, where we would take these products. Like we tried that, the thing that shocks your abs. We tried that on the air.
I think I kind of remember.
We tried herbal Viagra. We tried, at one point, because I got a pretty hairy chest, we did NADS on one side and Nair on the other. Remember, NADS is the non-heat wax,
yeah,
and then Nair is the one that basically burns the skin off. So we did half and half on that. So we got to do a lot of cool things. It was the first time I got to meet Korn, was because my boss, the guy who ended up firing me, he knew I was a huge Korn fan. And I still remember to this day, we were standing outside the arena, and we give them a time, like, hey, be here by 6:30. If you're a winner, you get to go to the meet and greet. Be here by 6:30. 6:30 rolls around. The winners aren't there yet. So my boss grabs the meet and greet passes, hands two, one to me, one to my friend. And, we slap on the badges. And as we're walking in, the guy shows up at like 6:40. What do you mean they're already gone? We're here. And we're like, you had to be here at 6:30. Like, they're already gone. This guy's just making a huge stink because he didn't get to go to the meet and greet because he was late. That meet and greet was awesome. I got to play some video games with Trust Company. Do you ever remember that band?
Oh, yeah.
I got to play video games
Company.
against Trust Company. I think Disturbed was on that bill as well. And then I got to meet the guys from Korn.
That's
when I realized how fucking
gig,
miserable they were.
Who?
Korn. They're in the meet and greet. You could tell they just didn't want to be there. Like they were just. It's like it was kind of towards the end of the tour. Jonathan's talking to Fieldaby about his back and how it's all tweaked and he's got to get it worked on and shit. But anyway, so I got paid in all this cool stuff, and I was there for about a year. Actually, it was a little over a year. And it was getting to the point where there had been some talk of hiring me onto.
What kind of internship goes a year?
I wanted to keep going. We were only required to do one term, but I asked. I'm like, can I just keep doing this? And they were like, yeah, absolutely.
So it wasn't like connected to an actual class or a
The first one was. And then I still got credit because you had to get credit technically, in order to stay there. Mm-hmm. So I did that. And I put in some hellacious hours when I started. Like during that summer, I would get up. I would be at the station by 6 a.m. Because it was originally a morning show we worked on. I would work until about noon, drive out to school, which was about a 45-minute drive. I would eat lunch, and then I would start work again around 1:30 or 2, and then I would work till 10 o'clock at night, drive home, which was another hour, and then I would wake up and just go the next day. And that's what I did during my summer because it was fun. I loved it. So anyway, so there was a lot of talk of potentially hiring me as a paid employee. And, generally what happens is, sometimes you end up being that sticker bitch. You're the promotion guy. You're the one that goes and sets up the stuff.
Schleppers, we call them.
Oh, we called them sticker bitches. Like you hand out the station's stickers. And in Portland, those were go nowhere jobs.
Like nobody ever advanced from sticker bitch
to being on air or anything like that. No, it wasn't really done. But there was talk of bringing me on in some sort of like programming aspect, which was what I wanted. I'm not going to be stuck being a sticker bitch. I helped out with promotions because I enjoyed it and I wanted to show like, hey, I'm willing to put in the work.
You don't want to end up in the friend zone. You don't want to end up a sticker bitch.
You do not on either count. So just really randomly this one day, the way that we had the show set up at this point, we had moved from working on the morning show to working with the afternoon show. And as we're working with the afternoon show, they're in the main studio. So it'd be like us over here. Okay. But then there's a producer studio that's all the way on the other side of the building, and it's just linked through headphones and a microphone. That's it. So they can't see each other. It'd be kind of like our setup here, except just imagine rather than me being through that window, I'm all the way on the other side of the building.
All right, got it.
And then imagine an intern who's doing research for the show and printing out paperwork and doing all this stuff, like pulling air checks on the other side of the building. So it's a huge triangle, and we're all linked by instant messenger. And so I'm sitting there working and I'm doing some stuff. And I think I had just printed some stuff out for an interview we were about to do. And as I did, I typed into the messenger. I'm like, hey, I got this stuff for you. I'm going to bring it over to you. And my boss types back, nah, there's no need. Just leave it there. You're fired. And I'm like, okay. He's fucking joking, right? Like you'd think that. So I'm like, okay, he's joking. Yada,
just
yada,
leave it there. You're fired.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a serious termination.
No. So I'm like, whatever. So I walk over to his studio and I go hand him the paperwork. And he turns around and he goes, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm still working. He goes, I just fired you. And I'm like, no, you're joking. He goes, no. He goes, leave your key and leave. And I'm like, okay. So I gave him the paperwork. I walked out. I didn't actually even have a key to get into the building. I just had a badge, with my picture on it. So I took that badge, I hung it up, and I walked out.
That's it?
That's all. That's how it ended.
You didn't go to anybody like his boss?
No.
Because the host of the show wouldn't have any input? I mean,
because my thought process was, if he's willing to throw this much of a stink, I don't care. It's an unpaid internship. I can go somewhere else. I can get another job. And what the funny thing is, so when I was in Portland, 3-4 years ago, I was working for a company called Alpha Broadcasting. Sure enough, as I'm working on a weekend, that same guy is now working weekends there, and we ran into each other. It's the first time I've seen him in probably 13 years since this happened. And it was just this really quick, oh, hey, Brandon. Hey, Nick. And then that's it. Right past each other.
Wow.
So that was the termination via instant messenger.
I think I would take it a little harder than you
did. It didn't mean a whole lot to me because I was still in school. Like, it did kind of suck that I'm willing to put in a year here, and he was willing to crap on me like that. But the interesting thing is, we had in this program that I was in, it was specifically for radio broadcasting, and they would bring in on-air talent, program directors, general managers, operations managers, and we could play demos for them. We could ask them questions and stuff like that. And then we ended up getting in 2 of the people from the classic rock station, that's been there for years.
KUPD.
Yeah, KGON was the station. And Iris Harrison, who is she's like everybody's radio mom. Like, she's the best on the planet. And so, I played her my demo. My buddy played her his demo. And when the class was over, everybody's leaving. So we went up to go talk to her and Bob Harlow. That was the program director's name. So as we're kind of talking to him, Iris looks at me. She goes, "You were the one that used to intern for NRK." And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "What happened? Like, you just weren't there one day." And I was like, "Well, Nick fired me." And she's like, "Oh, so it's true." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Well, the rumor is that he was freaked out you were going to take his job because they would have been able to hire you for better work at lower pay, and he would have been out of a job. So he fired you before they could do that."
He was worried that they were going to scab him with you.
Yeah, that's why I got fired. And then come to find out, a lot of people in that building didn't think very highly of him because he was really shady and really kind of, just kind of a sketchy dude, which is weird because before that, I had no problems with the guy. Like, he was a great boss. It's just, how it ended there. So if you have any other questions about that, you can bring them up in the chat. We did get a question in here. What was the worst job ever?
For me?
Yeah.
I've had some shitty jobs. There was a factory, my dad's factory. No, he didn't own it, but he was the...
Dry erase boards, right?
Yeah. He would... Well, that's one of the products, but it was basically porcelain enamel on steel. So I'd work at this factory making $5 an hour, I think, at the time.
That doesn't sound too bad for that time.
Well,
my first job,
I think minimum was...
I was making under $5.
So, but this was in the summer, and you were in this factory, and you had these giant blast furnaces, because what they would do is they'd spray this enamel, and it had to dry evenly, and it would go through these furnaces. Well, it was already summertime in Oklahoma, so some days would be like 100 degrees with 80% humidity.
And then
so
you're adding on top of that the furnace.
You're in a furnace, right, getting blasted with that all day, and that was pretty awful. Baling hay was a summer job that I did a lot.
It sounds very monotonous and boring and tough.
So this was before they made, sometimes you'll see the hay bales that are round and the size of a car.
Yeah.
Well, these were rectangular, like a cube, and they weighed anywhere from 80 to 110 pounds, probably. And somebody, the youngest person, would drive the truck through the field, and you would have to, one person would pick the hay bales up, throw them up to the guy, he'd stack them until you got the truck loaded. Then you'd drive to the barn, undo them, stack them up and everything. It was just hot. Like water had never tasted so good.
I've had jobs like that.
Like, it's like, oh my God, water is the best thing on earth. Because, like, to the point where we had a jug out there. One day it had become contaminated with something, bugs or something.
And you're like, screw it, I'm still drinking it?
Give up.
Oh, you were kind of like,
were you kind
of like Finn in The Force Awakens when he's just dying for
he doesn't care that the
thing's sitting in it and it's got, shaking its snot all in it. He's like, screw it, I'm just going to drink it anyway.
I would have drank any water you can imagine because you're just so thirsty at that point. So that, that's like a tough job.
Yeah, and and I would say also a sucky job. I've had a crap load of jobs. At one point I was a temp, so I had a whole bunch of different jobs. There's one where I worked for a mattress store in the warehouse. There's another one where I worked for a plastics factory that made cups and plates and frisbees. And literally this is all you did for it was 12 hours a day at night. You worked from, I think, 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. And you would just stand at the end of the line as the plastics would come in, and you grab a stack of frisbees and stack it into a box.
Frisbees? Actual frisbees?
Actual frisbees, yeah. You just picked them up, and then there's glow-in-the-dark ones, and there's fancy ones. You just picked them up.
Could you ever take a free frisbee?
I think I probably could have, but I probably got yelled at if I got caught. But it's stuff that working in lumber was always awful. I wasn't a big fan of that. But probably the plastics factory, I think, would be the worst job.
Let me tell you, the worst thing about, back to the factory, for as hot as it was, the worst was when you would run out of work for that day because it was a union shop. So it was unionized. You couldn't leave, and they also couldn't say, you know what?
Go home?
Yeah, go home.
So no matter what, you were there till that time.
You had to push a broom around, even though
just to make it look like you were.
Yeah, just to do something because, and I was like, why can't I? There's no work. Why can't I just shut up? You know, like the guys who were there, you know, for lifers.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
Don't screw up their cush gig, man.
Just push this broom around. I've swept this thing.
Yeah, it's already clean. Yeah, there was another one a job I had. I worked at a machine shop. We actually made cookie makers, like those industrial ones where you just kind of put the dough on top, and you got the conveyor belt that spits out the dough. Those things.
Like on the Lucy show? Like on I Love Lucy?
Yeah, exactly.
You start shoving
them. No, because we were making the cookies. We were making the machines that make the cookies.
Right, okay.
And the thing that sucks, so you got to wear the coveralls for the job, and it was during the summer. It was just god awful hot in there. They didn't have any coveralls that fit me, so I looked like I was just in this gigantic. Like if you were to like seal like the actual bottoms in like right here and put air into it, I would have looked like Violet Beauregard.
So they were too big for you.
Oh, it's gigantic. But there's all these. I am a klutz, so I constantly would get fucking hurt. Where there was one where you're taking a metal ring and you're just taking this this big lever and you're just kind of pushing it down like this, and it's pushing the ring into another hole. And there was teeth for this gear that would kind of apply the pressure, so it was easy. All you're doing was pulling. You didn't have to pull very hard. But if the lever didn't sit into the teeth, it would just fall straight down. And at one point, I went like that, and it wasn't there, and my hand went swinging through, and it smashed between two pieces of metal, and it fucking bloodied up the nail, and the nail ended up falling off. Or there's another one where you got your goggles on, and it's in a lathe, and it's spitting out metal shards, so you're holding your coveralls like this to make sure you don't get burnt, because they'll land down your shirt. Like you'll note, like they'll come down, and all of a sudden you have like burn marks all over your chest. So I'm like this, and then I had one that came down. It went right through the top of the glasses and landed on my cheek and burnt a hole in my fucking cheek.
So when that happened, did you have to go to the thing that keeps how many days since the last accident, like on The Simpsons, and turn it back to zero?
I don't think we had one of those. All right, one more question before we wrap up here is we did get a question about how did we make it to KLAQ and El Paso?
All right, so I had been working at a radio station that I worked at in college, and it was the big rock station.
Was it Tradio?
No, it didn't do Tradio. That was a little, before. This was kind of like the big time. This was KAT in Oklahoma City. But since I've been working there since I was in college, I felt like I was always going to be seen as, the kid who does the grunt work. So I would work over, I didn't think I was ever going to get any respect. So
no advancement to, do better.
Yeah, or that it would take a long time and that I could strike out on my own. So I sent resumes, and back then you'd send an actual tape, this was before digital. So you'd send an actual cassette, and I shotgunned them all over the country to Canada even. I was just anywhere. So, I got a few callbacks, and one of them was El Paso, and they flew me down.
Was it Brad?
It was. Mm-hmm. It was Brad.
Hey, I like your stuff. You sound good.
This is good. I like it.
So then that was it? So they flew you out here, you got the job, and you were hired?
I thought about it, and I went back, and I had another offer that was closer to home, but it was a lot of, like I say, the grunt type of work. It was, a lot of running stuff over.
Would it have always been like a lateral move?
Yeah.
Then, because it's like, oh, this is the stuff you don't want to do, and it's a different job.
Yeah, KLAQ was definitely where I could go in and start, being, right away. And so I had to think a few weeks, and I called back and took it. So I was 92.
You're old. I was 12 years old. I was still doing what's gross at the gross jokes when Buzz made it to El Paso. Yeah. For me, it was I was in college, and I had given my demo. You had cassettes, we had CDs. That it was still it was right on the cusp of when you would still make CDs, but you could send an email if your email could hold a large enough file,
like an MP3 or a wave or something.
Like sending an MP3. And I had handed my demo to this one guy who I knew in Portland. He knew, and this is like just goes to show you how things can get passed from hand to hand to hand. Is I gave it to my buddy in Portland. He knew a guy in Cox Radio by the name of Greg Lindahl, who I'm forever in this guy's debt because he liked the demo, and then he ended up handing it to another guy in Cox Radio by the name of Kevin Vargas, who was the head of rock radio
for Cox
Radio. I don't know if he was the head, but he was like one of the big honchos, and so they sent.
In case you don't know, Cox is huge.
Yes, huge Cox.
I don't know if Cox are as big as they used to be.
No,
at one
it's
point,
shrunk a
Cox
little bit.
was gigantic.
Has
it shrunk a little bit?
I don't know actually. But yeah, so really randomly, I was still in college. I get a phone call from this guy who I'd never heard of, named Kevin Vargas, telling me that he wants to hire me. He's like, I really like your demo. Let's start talking. So we kind of kept in contact. At one point, he flew me to San Antonio, which is where he was at the time. He wanted to hire me for his nighttime position. That didn't end up working out. So I ended up taking a job in Eugene, Oregon. Still kept in contact with Kevin. Then randomly one day he tells me, hey, we got a station that's flipping to rock in Florida. Do you want to come work for us? And I was like, absolutely. So I ended up in Miami working for Kevin. Now, Kevin, he got let go in like 2010. He ends up in El Paso. I'm still in Florida. I get let go before I'm even home yet. He's calling me up asking if I would be willing to move to El Paso because there might be a position open for me. Didn't have one yet, but he wanted to know if I'd be interested. He flew me out here. This was 2012. First time I ever met Buzz, he was dressed up like a goddamn Sasquatch.
Not just like, oh, I put on a scary mask. I was made up.
It was for the haunted house. It was for that haunted house that was over off of Lee Trevino.
I had undergone like a 2-hour transformation.
Yeah.
So
I remember Kevin and I sitting out in the parking lot, and Buzz pulled up in his truck, and we see the Sasquatch get out. And Kevin was like, I don't know if that's Buzz or not. And we just see that because Buzz even had the huge feet. So you ever seen somebody walk with like flippers on? Like that's how Buzz is walking into the haunted house. So the first time I meet Buzz, we're in the haunted house, and Kevin's like, hey, this is Brandon. And I'm like, hey, it's nice to meet you. And it's Buzz dressed up as Sasquatch. First time I met the guy. And then, so this was 2012. I ended up moving back to Portland. Worked there part-time, and originally my whole goal was when I moved back to Portland, I'm not leaving Portland again. Like this is it. And it ended up being one of those situations where there wasn't anything full-time there. I talked to a ton of different people that I knew in the city. There's just nothing full-time because it's a very incestuous market. You get let go from this radio station, this one's going to hire you. And it's just kind of, moving the pieces. And then I got a phone call from Kevin about, hey, we might have a job offer down here. And this was when did I start here? 2015, I think.
that sounds about.
Yeah, 2015. And I was supposed to be here sooner because Kevin kept, dangling that whole Street Fest thing in front of me of, hey, I know you want to go to Street Fest because it's Weezer and Rob Zombie.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, yes, that sounds
good year.
amazing. And something kept holding it up. And eventually I didn't get here until I think it was September of 2015. But that's how I ended up here, is through Kevin and that whole very, very long story. On that note, Julian says here, I grew up listening to Buzz, though I used to think Nostradamus was an actual person. To be fair, I was like 5. Oh, my fiance's in the chat now. Hi, baby.
She is?
Yeah, blow a kiss. Mwah. Yeah, she's right there.
Oh.
It's her last day before she goes back to work from a little break. Other people saying that they missed that Street Fest. That I was definitely looking forward to.
It wasn't Rob Zombie and Weezer on the same night.
No, Weezer, I believe, was Friday. Rob Zombie was Saturday. Man, yeah. Kevin kept dangling that thing in front of me because there was other job offers before I came here. There was one that was, kind of like you. There was one that was closer to Portland. And it would have been a really good job. It was afternoon drive on a rock station. It was drivable to Portland. And it was actually in the same company. It was Town Square Media. And so Kevin was going to try to kind of hook it up.
We got stations in Portland?
No, in Tri-Cities, Washington. It's like 6 hours. Hey, you remember the story I told you about the bachelor party at the meatpacking plant?
Yeah.
Okay, that was like 45 minutes or half hour south of Tri-Cities. It's out in the sticks. Like it's in the middle of nowhere. People think El Paso's isolated. That place is, it's pretty bad up there. But yeah, so there was a couple opportunities there to get some jobs, and it kept pushing Kevin. I remember the conversation I had with Kevin and Brad when Kevin's like, well, he's going to want to be here by this date. And Brad's like, well, why is that? And he goes, well, Street Fest. He goes, it's Weezer and Rob Zombie. And I'm like, fuck yes, I want to be there for that. And ultimately it didn't work out. Okay, so then Julian says, I don't know, Buzz does a pretty decent Indian accent. Plus, he'd do the whole let me open the door for him and hear the door open. Oh, Lord. All right. So on that note, hey, we're about a half hour. Let's wrap this bad boy up. You got anything else you want to say? Do you have any more grosser than gross stories?
No, just I remember those were kind of a thing. There was a few other ones that were just kind of like these kind of jokes were hot for a while.
Yeah, and the website I'm here, it's really more like Buzz was saying. When I was a kid, it was what's grosser than gross, and you just tried to make it grosser every time. Where it's turned into like dead baby jokes, or just baby jokes in general. Like this one right here. What's red and silver and walks into walls?
What's red and silver and walks into walls?
Yeah. Again, I didn't make this up. I'm reading this from a website.
I don't know.
A baby with forks jammed in its eyes. Again, yeah, I didn't make it up.
I can remember when I was very young, there was kind of a fad going on. Elephant jokes. Not dead elephant jokes, just elephant jokes. How do you make an elephant float?
How?
Root beer, 2 scoops of ice cream, and an elephant.
Oh, Jesus.
How do you get down off an elephant?
How do you get down?
You don't get down off an elephant, you get down off a duck.
What?
Okay. What did Tarzan say when he saw the elephants coming over the hill?
What did he say?
Hey, look, there's the elephants coming over the hill. What did Tarzan say when he saw the elephants coming over the hill wearing dark glasses?
What did he say?
Nothing. He didn't recognize them.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You don't get down off an elephant. You get down off a duck. The down.
Oh, God. The feathers.
Eider down.
Okay, all right. On that note, we're going to wrap this one up. Jesus Christ. Say goodbye.
Bye.